Kuna wazimu pale, siku moja anaamka analeta mswada ambao hauna mbele wala nyuma. Anasema ati anataka yeye amechaguliwa miaka 5, anataka kujiongezea ati miaka 7.
I think it has reached a time that we must now start doing constitutional audit. After from 2012 up to now, from 2010 up to now, we need to audit. Where does it work in our constitution? What do we need to improve?
Na hapa ya kwamba mimi si support mambo ya miaka 7.
Miaka 5 imetosha viongozi kufanyia watu kazi.
Wairudishe nje mara moja, waitupe.
This is a private member's bill.
Power in Kenya may be about to change shape. A bill in the Senate is now at its second reading, and if it passes, it could stretch presidential and parliamentary terms from 5 years to 7 years. That means elections would come 2 years later every cycle. And it doesn't stop there. The bill also wants to bring back the office of Prime Minister, this time not as a balancing act between rival coalitions, but as an appointment by the President. This is not a drill. It is the most consequential proposal since the BBI debacle, and it has already sparked debate about democracy, power, and political survival.
On the issue of a term limit, which Kenyans have opposed, it is important that I've heard Kenyans, others are proposing 3 years, 2 years, 4 years, 5 years, 7 years. I'm proposing 7 years. And many people forget and fail that this thing I'm mentioning was in NADCO report. I think people don't read the reports. In the NADCO report, they have proposed a similar extension of term limit.
The bill fronted by Senator Samson Cherargei has already passed its first reading and is now in its second reading at the Senate. Procedurally, this means it has cleared the initial introduction stage and is now being debated in detail by senators. If it survives the second reading, it will move closer to the committee stage than the third reading.
My reasoning is very simple. You know, Kenya, we have perpetual political mood. Even as we talk today, it is 2 years into elections, but the campaign mood and the politics that is happening across the country, you can imagine we're having elections next week. So one is to create time for delivery. Number 2 is to stop this aspect of campaign electioneering.
But the hurdles are steep. A constitutional amendment of this scale requires 2/3 majority in both houses of parliament and potentially a referendum, depending on the court's interpretation of the basic structure doctrine.
This thing will go to debate. Parliament will debate, it might go to referendum, so Kenyan will still have their say when it comes to this.
At the heart of the bill are 2 seismic changes, extending terms of elected leaders from 5 years to 7 years. That means the president, MPs, senators, governors, and MCAs all get 2 extra years per term. Creation of a prime minister's office appointed directly by the president from among MPs. Unlike the BBI model, this prime minister would not emerge from a coalition negotiation but from presidential discretion, fundamentally shifting the balance of power in parliament.
That there shall be office of the prime minister who shall be appointed by the president from the party with the majority or coalition of parties as a prime minister, who technically shall be the head of government business.
Other provisions seek to strengthen the Senate, giving it power to vet key state officials, approve military deployments, and share responsibility on emergencies with the National Assembly.
I am proposing that the Senate vets and approves Attorney General, Cabinet Secretary, Secretary to the Cabinet, Principal Secretaries, Director of Public Prosecution, Chair and members of Constitutional Commissions, Chief Justice, Deputy Chief Justice, Auditor General, Inspector General of the National Police, Controller of Budgets, and nominees to Commission of Revenue Allocation under Article 215, and members of Public Service Commission.
What about Ruto's current 5-year term? Here's the part everyone is asking. If this bill passes, what happens to the 5-year term that President Ruto is currently serving? It will not be scrapped or reset. the 2022 election mandate remains valid. Instead, Ruto's current term would likely be stretched from 5 years to 7 years, meaning instead of ending in 2027, his first term would run all the way to 2029. After that, he would still be entitled to a second term of 7 years unless the bill changes term limits, which it doesn't, at least in its current form. Critics argue this amounts to changing the rules of the game midstream, effectively extending leaders' terms without asking voters. That's why courts could be dragged into the matter to decide whether the extension can legally apply to already elected officials or only to future ones. So no, Ruto doesn't get fresh 7 years. His first term is simply elongated. Extending terms means fewer elections and longer stays in power. On paper, it could save costs of frequent elections, but in reality, it is seen as a bid by the political class to insulate themselves from voter pressure. For Ruto, 2 extra years would mean more time to entrench his agenda and delay accountability until 2029. For governors and MPs, it is a convenient way to extend their political lifelines. The creation of a prime minister, meanwhile, raises questions about checks and balances. If the prime minister is a presidential appointee, will parliament be more independent or simply an extension of State House? Kenya's 2010 constitution is designed to resist easy amendments. Article 256 demands a 90-day gap between first and second readings, plus a 2/3 majority in both houses. More importantly, the courts have entrenched the basic structure doctrine, meaning some features of the constitution like term limits and separation of powers cannot be altered without civic education, public participation and referendum. Remember the BBI judgment. The courts made it clear, Parliament cannot simply re-engineer the republic by numbers alone. A referendum may be unavoidable. So, is this bill a genuine attempt to improve governance or a dangerous power grab by the political elite? As the Senate debates, the stakes are clear. The outcome could reshape Kenya's political future for a generation. And if history is anything to go by, the fight over this amendment will be long, messy, and fiercely contested in court and on the streets.
We don't want it. Kama uko na kazi inaweza onekana miaka 5, utaongezwa kipindi ingine.
Hiyo tutaangusha asubuhi mapema.
Unajua pale bunge kama soko lingine lolote hawezi kosa wazimu. Kuna wazimu pale, siku moja anaamka analeta mswada ambao hauna mbele wala nyuma. Anasema ati anataka yeye amechaguliwa miaka 5, anataka kujiongezea ati miaka 7. Na nataka niwaambie leo kama katibu mkuu wa chama cha ODM, huo mswada hauna uungwaji mkono kutoka kwa seneta ama mbunge yeyote wa ODM. Kwa sababu mimi kama katibu wa chama najua kwamba tumeridhika na katiba yetu ambayo inatupa miaka 5 kama watu ambao tumechaguliwa. Baada ya hiyo miaka turudi kwa wananchi, kama umefanya kazi uongezewe ingine, upewe promotion ama ufutwe kazi.
What is your take? Are Kenyans ready for this shift or are we being dragged into it? Is this the beginning of a real reform or just another cleverly packaged lie? Drop your comments. Newsroom, Maisha TV, Bushabi Jr.